grandmother came to her. She held Anna down and tried to kill her with a knife. Anna struggled with her grandmother. Then suddenly, strength came to Anna's hands. She pushed her grandmother over, took the knife from her, and stabbed her. Anna was a strange child, born in one of the poorest families in Dakota village. She was the only child of her mother. She was greatly loved by her grandmother. Anna's skin was pale, and she looked as though she would not live past the next day. All her age mates looked older than her. Anna was always sick. Her parents took her from one herbalist to another, but the solution they gave never lasted. Anna's parents, out of frustration, took her to her grandmother. Anna always seemed to be at peace in her grandmother's place. Mama, as everyone called Anna's grandma, had her way with children, except for the stubborn ones that hate even the sight of her. Mr. Henry, Anna's father, planned to bring her back after she was healed completely. Anna's grandmother was always doing good works and helping people out. She was a midwife. Mama, as she was popularly called, was one of the oldest in the community. Anna was 3 years when she went to stay with her grandmother. There was something strange about Mama. One night, Anna woke up and went out to pee. She was 5 at this time. She saw a woman tying a red wrapper. This woman was making some incantations, and she had a chicken and a knife in her hand. As Anna watched, this woman killed the chicken and drank its blood. Anna mistakenly stepped on some dry mango leaves, and the woman turned with anger in her eyes, and her eyes red as blood, to find out who made that sound. To Anna's greatest surprise, it was her grandmother. A cold wind blew. Anna could not move her body. She did not know if it was fear or something else pinning her to the ground. Mama walked fiercely to where Anna was, looked her in the eye and said, "You have seen too much now. There is no going back." Anna was still in shock, trying to process what had happened to her. From that time on, Anna was fully initiated into evil. After 2 years of being trained in evil, she was ready for her assignment. The assignment given to her was to scatter homes by entering as a house help. The first home was that of 2 unbelievers. They did not understand that life is spiritual. Anna, now 7 years old, had gone to live with Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. After a while, strange things began happening in their home. One night, Mrs. Johnson woke up to a strange sound. She had cold chills run down her spine. She was visibly shaking. The banging sound from the open windows made the matter worse. As she walked to the kitchen, Mrs. Johnson saw Anna speaking to the air. Mrs. Johnson called out to Anna in a loud voice. Anna fiercely turned and looked at her with anger and spoke with the voice of an adult. "Why are you disturbing us?" she asked. Mrs. Johnson was shocked. She let out a loud shout that woke up her husband. Mr. Johnson came running down with speed to find his wife and Anna in the kitchen. Mrs. Johnson told her husband all that had happened. Just as she was about to end with her explanation, Anna started crying. Her voice had returned to that of a 7-year-old. Mr. Johnson was so angry with his wife. He shook his head in disbelief. Mr. Johnson said, "Woman, don't ever try this rubbish again. How could you say such things about a young child?" Mrs. Johnson insisted, "This girl is no young child. I will not stay in the same house as this witch." There was a heated argument between Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Johnson eventually did not leave. Anna had cast a spell on her husband. Days turned into weeks, and the same incidents continued happening, making Mrs. Johnson look like a crazy woman. Her husband could not take it anymore and he asked that they go their separate ways. Anna's mission was accomplished. Many years passed with Anna destroying homes. She did not enjoy this life. One day, she went to her grandmother and said, "Mama, I don't think I can continue with this lifestyle. My life is miserable. There has to be more. I want to be like other young girls." Her grandmother laughed and told Anna, "The only way out of this is death. Even the thought of living can kill you." Anna was frightened, so she would be a house help all her life. Her grandmother went on to tell her to continue with her assignments. One day she would be promoted. Anna wondered what kind of promotion she would get eventually. The next assignment came. This time, Anna was sent to destroy the home of two believers. Mr. and Mrs. Eriga were believers who did not pray much. They were career people. Because of their lack of discernment, they took Anna in to help them. Anna began her assignment the moment she came to live with them. Few weeks after she came to live with them, problems started. Mr. Eriga lost his job and they had to depend on Mrs. Eriga's salary. Everything was okay for a few months. When no job was forthcoming, Mrs. Eriga started frustrating her husband. These problems were all as a result of demonic manipulation. Mr. Eriga finally decided to tell his pastor about the strange things happening in his home. His pastor told him to fast and pray for 21 days. On the 14th day of the prayer, Mr. Eriga randomly went to his cupboard to pick up something from the kitchen. When he opened the door, a calabash with charms fell out. Mr. Eriga was shocked. He called his wife to ask about the calabash, and Mrs. Eriga said, "I know nothing about how this got here." While they were still talking, Anna ran to meet them, shouting and screaming. She pleaded with them not to destroy the calabash, but Mr. and Mrs. Eriga did not listen. Their eyes were now opened. They went ahead to destroy the calabash and its content. Anna was delivered. Pastors conducted deliverance on her and she was free at last. But this was not the end of the battle. Anna's grandmother found out that Anna had given her life to Christ. She started attacking Anna to kill her. These attacks were happening in Anna's dreams. One day, as Anna finished midnight prayers, her grandmother came to her. She held Anna down and tried to kill her with a knife. Anna struggled with her grandmother. Then suddenly, strength came to Anna's hands. She pushed her grandmother over, took the knife from her and stabbed her. Immediately, Anna woke up. That same day, her grandmother died. After the death of Anna's grandmother, Anna was free from all the attacks. Moral lesson. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 17 says, "We should pray without ceasing." This life is very spiritual. In order to navigate through life, we need the help and leadership of the Holy Spirit. And how we can be attuned to know God's will for our life at every point is through prayer. And that's also how we can dislodge the works of the enemy around us. Prayer is powerful. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you think of the story.